Welcome, LA Progressive friends and family. This is Sharon Kyle and Dick Price joining you again here from the LA Progressive, along with Bill Blum. And Bill Blum is just, he's always so amenable to providing us with some legal expertise and knowledge. He's a former judge and death penalty defense attorney. He's the author of 3 legal thrillers published by Penguin Putnam, and he's a contributing writer for These Times, The Nation, The Progressive, the ABA Journal, the LA Progressive, Truth Dig. And also you have a Substack, which I didn't know. I don't know if it's still active. I just kind of saw you up there the other day.
I don't think it's been activated yet. That's in the works.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Bill. Welcome. And today we want to talk about what seems to me that Donald Trump is really seriously attacking the whole judicial branch. You know, he's the legislative branch is already under his control. Obviously, the executive branch is under his control. And now, with this latest arrest of this Judge Dugan, Hannah Dugan, who is a judge in Wisconsin, arrested and taken away in handcuffs. So, Bill, give us some insight on what's going on here.
All right. So, as you said, Donald Trump is on the attack against the independent judiciary, both at the federal and state levels. And federally, he's referred to numerous judges as radical left lunatics, activists, calling for the impeachment of some. And that's for the purpose of reining them in and intimidating them into approving his policies. The attack on state court judges with this arrest of Judge Dugan is not exactly new for Trump. Maybe people don't realize he did the same thing with a judge in Massachusetts in 2019. And in that case, the prosecution went on for a couple of years, was eventually dropped under Biden with an agreement that the judge would agree to have her conduct submitted to that state's Judicial Performance Commission. We have them in every state. So if you want to understand what happened with Judge Dugan, you have to proceed on 2 different levels. First, on the particular level with what happened to her individually, and then in the broader sense, what's happening with judges generally. So let's just start with the general proposition first.
So can I just ask you just one quick question? Under what authority does he have to go after a state judge as opposed to a federal judge?
Okay, so what happened, we'll start with her case and use it to illustrate what he did in Massachusetts, and there's also a New Mexico situation. So ICE is authorized to make arrests. And what happened in the Wisconsin situation, I'm just looking at the public record, I know nothing beyond that, is that ICE agents came to the courthouse and notified the judge that they were there to arrest someone, a defendant, who was appearing before the judge on charges of domestic violence. This is a person who reportedly is undocumented and was originally removed from the country and then re-entered, which makes the re-entry a criminal offense too. So the agents apparently had what's known as an administrative warrant, not a judicial warrant, and that's important because the administrative warrant is just one issued by the executive agency. So it's issued by ICE itself, and it entitles ICE to make arrests in public places, but not to conduct searches in private places. So what I understand is that Judge Dugan told them that she wasn't going to cooperate because they had the wrong kind of warrant. Now, it's not a from a technical standpoint, it's not as easy a case as it might seem on either side, because courthouses are generally considered public, but courtrooms are under the control of particular judges. So they have a kind of status where the judge can exclude people. So I don't know if this judge intentionally interfered with an arrest that ICE wanted to make. She's been charged with obstruction of justice, which requires that the government show beyond a reasonable doubt that she had the intention, the specific intent of interfering with ICE's operations, and she was not performing a judicial function when she did that. So it's hard to prove that intent, but that's what she's been charged with. So I think it's a difficult case for the Department of Justice, but it's not a case which probably would be very quickly dismissed for failure to state a claim, because DOJ will say she knew we were there, and her purpose and this is what she did. She had the defendant and his lawyer leave through a back door rather than leave through the front of the courtroom into the hallway where ICE agents were waiting. So they left through a room that's provided for jurors, which is really a private type entrance where you don't want any interference by the public. But then the ICE people realized what was going on, and they very quickly arrested him outside. So what happened afterwards is that the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, gives an interview to Fox News, not a press conference where all the media are invited, but a press conference just for Fox, in which she says that, I don't know what's happened to these judges, plural. They're out of control. They think they're above the law. They're activists, and we will find you and we will get you, which is really a threat against judges, plural, which gets me to the two dimensions that we're working with here. We're working with what happened to Judge Dugan in particular, and what this signals for judges generally. So on the Dugan side of the ledger, she's has a case now, and she's going to have to go through the process. I think that it's going to be hard for the Department of Justice to win this case, but not impossible. We had a similar case in Massachusetts, which was resolved with a plea bargain, but through the Biden DOJ. There's also something happening in New Mexico with a retired state judge who was found to have living on his property some undocumented people that the government says are gang related. And that judge says, I had no idea that any of them had gang ties. And I don't know what's happening in that case in terms of the litigation. But the DOJ has the burden of proof. They may very well lose all these cases. If they do, and if they lose quickly, I think that will be a deterrent against further similar actions. But what Pam Bondi is signaling with her statement to Fox is that judges generally, you better look out. If you're going to oppose Donald Trump, we're going to come after you. And I don't know what she means by that, apart from specific cases where they might be able to charge a judge with interfering with an arrest that ICE might make. Simply ruling against Donald Trump on policy is not a criminal offense, and that would be quickly dismissed if it were brought against any federal judge in a federal court. And I think that Pam Bondi knows that. So this posturing, again, partly is performative, but for judges like Dugan and the one in Massachusetts and the one in New Mexico, it's a really serious thing because they've been arrested and now they have to defend themselves.
So aside from whether cases are won or lost, this is a terror campaign that in many ways is succeeding. We've all seen those images of the immigrants taken down to El Salvador, have their heads shaved and bent over, and that sends a message to millions of people. You're in danger. And yesterday they deported 400 people out of Florida. Now they've gone after judges. Yes, Judge Dugan may well win her case, but her life is going to be tied up for quite a while. And other judges in similar situations know that. And Pam Bondi or Kash Patel or one of the thugs even said they're going to arrest Governor Pritzker of Illinois if he gets in the way. Uh, and and at least at this point, until we push back, that's got to be sending shivers through lots of people. And then the message is, well, they're not going to stop there. They're going after all these graduate students from foreign countries. They're going to go for any protesters. They're going to, if you show up and protest anything, you're a target. It's really, that's what's going on as a terror campaign, I would say.
I think there is pushback. And I think that if you look at the opinion polls, the Trump administration is the most unpopular administration at the end of 100 days, at least in the last 70 years, from what I've read. I think that they know this, and I think that I think that they're going to be pivoting in some way. They did this with students, some international students. They restored status over the weekend. And the public's getting fed up with this. And when this is tied together with the tariffs and the economy, I do think I do have some cause for feeling more optimistic than I did 2 months ago. I think there is a lot of pushback now, and there's going to continue to be pushback. I don't think that federal judges are going to be intimidated, not at the lower court level. They're going to make rulings as they see fit. And we're even seeing the Supreme Court come around to a certain significant extent. They don't want to see themselves marginalized, even the conservative ones, with the possible exception of Thomas and Alito, who seem to be ready to go along with whatever the Republican president wants to do. So yes, it's a terror campaign, but it's also a pretty incompetently run terror campaign. I think that Pete Hegseth may be on his last legs because he's just turning into a joke and he's embarrassing Donald Trump. It looks like Elon Musk is on his way out of the administration. He's very unpopular. And I think that there's still room for Donald Trump to turn around a bit. And I'm not saying he could ever be good, and I'm not doing a Bill Maher here. I think that Trump is a terrible president, but I think there's reason to be optimistic that this pushback is underway and is going to build.
Well, let's, like I've said before, from your mouth to God's ears, let's hope that's true. If they are successful, I can imagine that, I don't know, judges take some kind of code of conduct. Like for attorneys, you have an obligation, you have a duty to zealously represent your clients. And I imagine that for judges, there are certain duties that a judge must uphold that I would think would be impacted by a threat like the one that Pam Bondi made.
Well, they definitely feel it, but I don't think it's going to affect the decision-making of most judges. And I want people to understand this repression that we're experiencing under Donald Trump. This isn't the first time. When I was young, protesting the Vietnam War, it was worse. We're talking about the deportation of people to El Salvador, which is terrible. When I was young, the FBI was murdering Black Panther Party leaders. It was terrible. When I drove cross country in 1968 from Philadelphia to Colorado, there were impeach Earl Warren signs still on lawns in Indiana. Things were bad before. We had J. Edgar Hoover, who was a smart version of Kash Patel. So I think that pushback is coming. People are fed up with what they're seeing out of the Trump administration. they want good government. That doesn't mean they want progressive social change, all of them, but they don't want this chaos. And I think the Trump administration is getting the message. They're certainly getting it on the tariff front. They're certainly getting it on the stock market front. Trump has been told by CEOs of various companies that there could be empty store shelves in a few weeks in the United States, just like we had under COVID, and it would be entirely Trump's fault if that happens. There's no pandemic now. There's no excuse for it. So stay tuned. I think that maybe things will start to improve marginally, or at least stabilize somewhat in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dispute that at all. I think that I am heartened by the pushback as well. I hope that continues. It must continue, because what we've seen is these people are willing to stoop to lots of different levels, and we don't know what's next. I mean, what next thing could they cook up? Who could they go after next? Whose lives could they make miserable? But I do think it's engendered. Finally, people are figuring out, well, how without having either parts of Congress and without the Supreme Court and without the executive branch, people are starting to figure out how to fight back. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, well, Bill, thank you again for joining us on such short notice too. We really do appreciate the information that you share with the LA Progressive community, and we hope that it's enlightening. We encourage people, if you like what you hear, please share, please subscribe. The LA Progressive and other outlets like it could soon be under attack. I mean, he's come after the legislative branch, the judicial branch. Early on, it was media, and I think that the media is up for another potential attack. So I just wanted to encourage everyone, please subscribe. And Bill, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Always great to be with you.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
See you.
We'll tell you how the play turns out.
Thanks.
Thank you for sticking around. If you like the LA Progressive content and the discussions we have here, please consider clicking the subscribe button below, and also give us a thumbs up. That helps to grow our audience by feeding the algorithm, which helps to get this content in front of more eyes. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate your support.